Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Jake and Friends. During our previous episodes, we went down to Kenda 660 down in Sydney. While we were there, we got the chance to go and see Emtron, where they were hosting a training seminar at the mainline dyno facility. While we were there, we got to go into the canteen, and we were given a bit of a tour of the ED10 dash, new Emtron dash that's coming out very shortly. So I was going to sandwich all of this information into one episode and put it in alongside the testing video and stuff, but it was too good to try and trim it down enough in order to get it into a video without the video taking a ridiculous amount of time. It's like no one wants to watch it. So I decided to save this one for later, put it up now, have a watch, leave us a comment, leave us a like, the normal stuff, hit subscribe if you haven't already. This is a really, really interesting video. It's full of tons of technical information. And let us know what you think. I guess the end of this video is going to end the same way it usually does, with just some tomfoolery anyways. Now I look forward to it. Let's get into it.
Party.
How we doing? Aaron.
Hey man.
Nice to meet you.
Oh man. I'll put my codeine sandwich down there.
We are down here with Ben from Emtron,
Aussie Ben, as he's also known.
sneaking in through the back door here at the old mainline headquarters, or mainline something or other.
It's just like their little testing facility.
Super secret location out the back of Western Sydney.
The address will be down here.
Yeah, they're gonna go give us a tour. We got a tour of this GTR here with the 4G in it, and they're gonna show us a bit of stuff with the dash.
TRP built full carbon fiber R32 GTR. You know what I love about circuit cars is things that you don't think about, like this is the anti-roll bar. We'll remove the wiper blades to fit an anti-roll bar.
And packaging, you're gonna get better leverage as well because it's
Yeah, of course.
ratio over it.
Yeah.
Well, you wanna
Absolutely.
So it's in the old tuck shop, that's how we do all that. And half of our staff haven't actually seen it yet, so it's
I think definitely you made that display, or Nick did something here.
So
or...
you can twiddle this thing to move all the values, or if you turn it all the way down.
this one.
Well, if you can,
Yeah,
whatever.
the twiddly baby.
But if you turn it all the way down, it'll run like an auto program.
It was funny at like PRI.
touchscreen?
No, we don't do touchscreen in motorsport.
Right, yeah, cool. Makes sense.
It's a growing difference.
I had a touchscreen dash. I used to drive my car on the street. I reached through the steering wheel and adjusted the
Oh,
brightness.
yeah.
But on the M1, you hit a corner, you're like, oh,
Yeah. I'm just like on my Apple CarPlay, like Mariah Carey, Celine Dion. It's, Nick, explain the torque. So, like, the biggest thing in PRI is like, oh, do you guys guesstimate a torque figure? And it's like, no, that's not how it happens. Nick, do you want to do it, or why don't you just do the in-depth of like how we actually derive engine
Put
torque?
us on the spot.
That's what you did on the spot. How do we drive engine torque?
Engine torque's derived from fuel mass. From fuel mass, you can pretty much calculate the amount of power, which is derived from the amount of energy in the fuel that's being injected. So power and torque are directly related through the equation of power equals torque times 9.5 times RPM divided by 9,549. That constant comes from if you graph the theoretical power and torque curves, they cross over and intersect at 9,549 RPM. But for foot-pounds and horsepower, it's like 250, 250, something like that. Yeah. So basically, if you know the fuel mass, you can calculate the theoretical torque from that amount of fuel.
I'd say the biggest difference that I think, to tone it down a bit, is that we're calculating it. We're actually doing the calculation, which is more like what an OEM is doing. And a lot of other manufacturers they might have some torque capability, but they might be doing it like with lookup tables and things like that. This will actively calculate the torque all the time.
Yeah,
in multiple ways.
We got my car, so I got a Crusader, it makes 1100 horsepower, and it pulls 131, 132 mile an hour over the 8. And if you got that car, that dyno figure, the Emtron calculated power output versus the Wallace racing calculator, and it's something like 2 or 3 horsepower difference between all three of them. Like, it is f***ing bang on that.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. There are some correction tables where you have like some weird things going on. Most of the time when the torque model is off, it always circles back to something super basic, like in the basic setup of the car, injector data, some kind of engine model setup, which is sort of the age-old thing that everybody deals with, every manufacturer deals with. So we're always very strict about that. We're like, you got good injector data and that kind of thing. I'd say the other thing that we leverage regarding the torque calculation is that the ECU has some functions in it that allow us to limit the torque. Which is kind of like also like an OEM ECU, which all sounds really bad because if people tune those things, a lot of times they end up with their hands tied behind their back because they can't control those limiting factors sometimes. So this is a fully programmable ECU, so you can go in and you can adjust those things. You can use them for anything really. We have 4,000, 4,500 horsepower Pro Mod drag cars using the torque model.
True story, Nick. We actually have the fastest turbo pro mod, I believe, at the moment in the US, right?
It might not be right now,
Wolverine.
but I think it might have gotten beat, but
Does
it's
it?
pretty,
Don't worry,
it's
don't worry
pretty,
about that. More detail.
yeah, but it's also the only pro mod
Yeah,
Emtron car. So I think it's profound to.
It could be a
to
coincidence.
mention that, yeah.
Hey, I've got a question though, right? With your torque model and your power output estimates and calculations and stuff, right? If you have an engine that's not limited and you just keep throwing timing in it, obviously it's going to start to fall off the other side there. Will the Emtron pick that up? Will it know when it's starting to fall
So
off?
the torque model is based on everything being an MBT.
Right.
And if you do any kind of reduction with ignition, or
I'm talking about going beyond. Like mine, it's 2J, so it's like 17 degrees at peak power kind of.
What if you're
But
at
if we went
MBT,
to like 25,
it's not going to do anything. It won't calculate anything farther than
It's
that.
your mind.
Yeah, because
uses
it's
the fuel
assuming.
mass.
Yeah, it's assuming. Yeah, and it's assuming that you're at MBT.
Yeah, right.
Whatever
Yeah,
timing
yeah.
you're at. But it's interesting because if you command a torque reduction, of course it's going to abide by that.
Yeah.
Also, if you do anything in the ECU to reduce torque, so say you have like an open loop cut, anti-lag, you hit the rev limiter, you do a open loop timing reduction. If you have that all sorted out, it will calculate that torque reduction.
yeah, it'll calculate it down, but it won't continue to go up.
It won't continue to go up
Right,
because
okay.
it's assuming that it's.
Yeah, it assumes that. We are right. Yeah,
We actually have, we suggest to people that are really using it at an advanced level to treat the ignition table as like an ignition base table or MBT ignition table, so that it functions kind of like a stock ECU then. If you have any knock intervention, you have anything like that happening, and you have any ignition trims happening, it actually calculates that torque reduction. And if you've done the torque model correctly, which it's not crazy complicated to do. There's a few things that you need to do. You'll have an actual torque value. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say mine's bang on as well. And the torque management on the start line stuff is so wild.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
so cool.
It makes some cool noises.
Mine
Like,
was
there's no other cars that
like,
look
so
like
12
cars.
volts, Chris 12 volts set mine up, and like just the way him and Matty Spry, they were playing around with it, and like it's funny in the car, I like only ever did it on the start line in the car with the helmet and stuff on, because I was always like, you know, you don't transport a car for fun of it, because you know, things can go wrong, so you always, so like, and then we came down to Sydney ages ago, and I did it in the pits next to the closed trailer, and it's like comes up, the second throttle body opens up, so I was like, and then I'm like, oh my god, this thing sounds wild, this is scary, and it's just like, this is so cool.
So yeah, the launch control and things like that, and like that stage limiting and stop limiting is all based on it's all PID based too. And the PID will follow a torque. Target, but also an RPM target.
Yeah.
And so we have really good control. We have some really interesting cars that we use like in power sports and things, and they're very influenced by inertia of the engine.
Yeah.
So they're hard to do launch control. They're really hard to do, like keep the engine speed stable, which is critical, especially for drag racing.
Yeah,
things
yeah.
Like that. And we can make them draw like.
Well, yeah,
really
because
flat
mine's
straight
like
line.
within 50 RPM.
Yeah.
When it comes up to say 6.2, 6.3, and then it comes down to 5.5, and it just holds it flat. And like there's a converter that's filling up. There's all kinds of stuff going on, but it's like, nope, I've got it.
And then
It's
and
just
the
like-
PID-based stuff will also compensate for the converter and compensate the trans pressure and temperature and things like that. And a lot of people don't realize that that's happening too. So like if you had something in an open loop setup and you got it perfect, well, you might fire the car up and the temperature might change outside, and you know all of it's going to change.
Yeah.
You're going to get completely different torque to stage the car at a certain RPM. And we've actually learned this. We've actually learned a lot of things about people's cars by being able to evaluate that data. Like if you have the wrong converter, you have the wrong converter set up.
Oh yeah. I had a Link G4 Plus Thunder in my car originally, and I took it out. Everything's like actually it started with a Haltech. Everything's perfect when you got a PS1000, and then you put a Link in, and you're like, starting out a few dramas. Put an Emtron in it, man. And like, that costs some money.
Because it just
Everything in my car was. Your oil pressure's wrong. Your converter's wrong. This is wrong. That's wrong.
We have that. We do a lot of endurance cars, and, and it's like,
Dude,
are you sure you want to do this? I'm going to tell you everything that's wrong with your car. Like, you know, you need to dry sump. You have no fuel pressure.
Change the ECU, don't even lift the bonnet and realise that everything on the bonnet's down. You're like, what? But what do you mean?
Like the getting the box and wiring in, man, that's probably like the cheapest part of the Emtron conversion. And then like getting the key for the first time, and it's like, hey, you're up. Like nothing in here is
It's like, how is this thing alive right now?
But we all used to have power FCs, right? It was ignorance is bliss. Yeah.
Well, it's the same story as like all these guys with their micro techs running fives, and they're like, oh, they're injecting the fast. It's like because you can't see what's wrong. All you know is it needs to do that timing and that much fuel for 5 seconds, and it's all blown up at the other end. It doesn't matter. Who cares about the rest of it?
Hervé said something on the way here. We were driving up here, and he was like, you know, we were talking about Emtron and how it does everything it's supposed to. Like it might expose some of these problems and things, but when it's all right,
none of it was detrimental. It was just like you're just showing problems, and we're like, now we have to address this because we can see.
But then you fix it, right?
Yeah.
And you know what happens is your car is kind of no dramas.
Yeah.
And it's kind of boring. Like, you got people,
We've been there too.
what happened? Like, I got nothing to talk about. I want to go have a beer with my friend and have.
But that's why it's
and
so
talk about all the
expensive.
things.
That's why it's so
Yeah.
expensive, because then it runs an 880, for example. I don't know how I could manage to pick that out of the sky, but you run an 880 and you go, huh, well now I need to spend more money and go an 850, don't I? Like,
Yeah.
and you buy Fox body.
Nick, you have what Mustang do you have?
I have an S95, but I'm trying to get rid of it.
I like this.
What do you mean you get rid of it?
I don't like it. It's like a melted bar of soap.
How does that make you feel?
S95 is different.
So, I mean, it's a Fox body, but you know it's got.
It's
like,
a fat
five
Fox body,
lug.
let's be real here.
Yeah, it's got 5 lug. It's got disc brakes, and that's why I got it. But I really like my heart is with a Fox body. So.
He's
Man, I built a
that's a good guy.
Like this, I
I agree. Mate, you wait till we put mine on the scales.
yeah, I've already said enough ago. I was like ripping my radio and shit out the other day. Like,
A funny story, right? So training, so Nick's obviously come from Boston. Where are you from again? He's come a long way. But out of everyone, I think Declan, he committed R35 Emtron managed the whole way from Adelaide in the last 2 days.
Yeah, 1,400 odd Ks to get here.
But it's Emtron managed, so I would have done it all on the cruise
control, yeah.
Yeah.
Weird brag, but okay.
So Declan's car, not only is it driving here, it's then going to sit on the dyno for the Sunday session for all the TMA stuff and pretty much a lot of the...
That's pretty much, that's got to be the most hardcore car that we have to really demonstrate a lot of this torque management and
It
everything.
uses so much bullshit.
It's infested with torque control because of the TCM and the VDC.
Oh, of course, yeah, right. Because you got to deal with, because you got to like. Am I wrong in saying that the 35s, because they're a standard TCM, you have to like trick it and tell the TCM that you're doing things that it thinks are still correct and tell it.
But we're not
the
tricking.
TCM, the TCM
Right.
tells the engine what it wants, and then the engine, like, well, the TCM tells the Emtron what it wants, and the Emtron changes the torque to match what the TCM wants.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah, backwards the way you think.
we don't trick it, or we don't have to build like torque tables and like try to bend the ECU to the transmission's will. We just calculate torque and transmit that result to the transmission.
Yeah,
Transmission then takes that torque value and uses it to calculate how much clutch pressure to apply.
Yeah.
And if you get that wrong, it'll either slip or it'll shift really harsh.
Yeah, that was one that people were tricking. It was the clutch pressure, wasn't it? They were going, oh, when we drag racing, it's like, oh, we want all here and we want tons there. So we just go, oh, it's got no torque here and it's got more torque there, and it'll just punch as you
There
do
are
it.
tables
We
you
have
can-
a
you can
table
go
to
and
modify
modify
that,
Yeah.
but you don't have to. You just leave it all zeroed out, just use the calculated torque and the car drives fine.
Right.
So, question, right? So back in the days, early sort of 35s, right? Every 35 used to be like, oh, planning transmission. I mean, Dodson gear set. But do you think that was more a case of just poor engine management, or do you think that was just a weak
I mean,
gear
it
set?
could
Like,
be. A lot of those cars might have been drag racing cars.
Yeah. It is my understanding of the 35, like roll racing and no prep and stuff, they're fine, but it's when you launch them, that's when they have all the drama. It's like they break on 60 foot.
But in saying that, I mean,
that way.
if you use that, what I just said then, that makes perfect sense. If your ECU can't transmit to the TCU, what it like 500 newton meters when it's making 500 newton meters, and it's actually making 800 newton meters, and the ECU is saying, well, I'm making 500. I'm only the TCU, sorry. I'm only making 500. I'm going to put this much clutch pressure. You're going to kill clutches because it doesn't have enough on it to.
The other thing is if you don't tell it a realistic amount of torque that you're making, when it wants to change gear and it goes, oh, well, I need to change gear, so I need to reduce torque to this amount, it's probably going to ask for a lower torque request than it would have if you told it the truth.
Yeah.
So if it thinks you're making 500 newton meters, but you're actually making 900, it'll be like, oh, just throttle it to like 450, should be right.
Yeah. Okay.
But you're then reintroducing the clutch pressure at 900 newton meters again, and then shearing it off.
Yeah.
So I think if you tell the truth to it, you've got a better chance of it surviving.
Truth is always the best policy, right?
No.
The only problem
Look,
is
everything at 10 hertz, no dramas.
As long as our wives don't hear about a race car.
I mean, that transmission and torque stuff is very, very complex, and we, the R35 taught us a lot about that. We're using some aftermarket controllers now too that work with like some of the BMW.
Yeah, the
DCTs.
ones that are running on the not the ZF box, but the twin clutch
there's
boxes.
twin
I
clutches
can't
and
remember what
things,
it's
and
called.
also ZFs and stuff like that.
Get track.
So, but what we found is that whole request for the torque during the shift and everything is all active based on how much torque the engine is producing, and then the system's expecting to see the engine torque change through the shift.
Yeah,
And it constantly changes.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
if the ECU is not doing that, it's just not gonna shift.
And on the gear shift, you won't just see a flat torque request
Yes.
and then go back
That's
up.
mechanical.
It's changing the whole
come
time.
down, and then
Yeah.
as the shift progresses, that torque will get reintroduced, and then it's off.
Yeah.
Right, and it's doing that based on the actual engine torque, and it's looking at engine torque, but not just the actual engine torque, and we have like uncorrected torque as well,
Yeah.
which is the torque that the engine should be making if there's no intervention. And so like these systems, those calculations are all being done in these. Pretty cool. That was pretty nerdy.
No, love it.
That's correct. Nick used to be a DJ as well.
Oh
The house guest. Yeah.
Man, I couldn't take that many drugs and still have that like good of a functioning brain.
pushing buttons and laptops.
So we're saying yes, we like to do it.
I was going to say flip it around for you. Well, I'm glad I've done the tech talk in the tuck shop.
We'll tell everyone else not to bother coming. We've learned it all.
Yeah.
We'll just have beer tomorrow.
I really feel like beers tonight. I really feel like it.
Well, if you want to bring
Come to the track.
We could do a track visit.
If you do a track visit, we'll
You're going to want to get in there quick because like my car's got a history of either doing really well or really poorly on the first pass.
No, because if it does really poorly, then we just drink more beers.
Yeah.
We've also got $20 on the input shaft breaker on the the burnout box.
Yeah.
So we'll meet you at Eastern Creek Tavern.
What track are we talking about?
Eastern Creek is really cool.
Yeah,
Drag
what's
strip.
the event?
Kenda. 8th mile drag racing.
Oh, cool.
It's called Kenda 660. It's like the only radial event around Australia that actually prep the track to suit radial cars. And it's sweet.
But you know what's really cool, right? Is Sean Ramsell does the tuning on my car.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of stuff with like ski boats and a bit of time attack stuff. He'll be here today as well. I saw one of his logs. I went down his workshop and I actually saw one of his logs. Now, could be drag race. Most of the shit we do is 8th mile with radial cars. So our log's like this long.
Yeah.
And seeing one that was minutes. It's just like so unreal.
Dude, what about 24 hours?
Yeah. I'm so used to like taking this like 100 kilobyte log out, erasing it, and then just sending it down the track again. Now you're like,
Yeah, man. And do you use a lot of, like, Sean was doing a lot of rate of change traction stuff?
yeah. So we don't use that as a drag strip, but we use that in roll racing. a lot,
It's, I mean, I'm excited. I'd like to go, and I'm talking about fast cars today. Hervé, do you have any last words? Because you are going in Coval tonight, which I think at last count made 40
Tonight?
minutes yours, Beth.
It was tonight?
I think that's what's going to happen, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna send you some videos if I live through.
Some couple of private road test hits or...
Alright, well, I'm seriously going to get back to my curry and sandwich now, so
Yeah, I'm gonna...
Curry.
Get out of here. It's awesome.
Yeah, especially with this many people.
Really hot in here. We should have a meeting.
Oops,
Yeah.
sorry.
A
man.
lot of men in a very small room.
How's the soup kitchen, boys?
Videographer Aaron.
Yeah, I'll fix this.
I enjoyed it.
Situation fixed.
Just had a mad little tour and a little chat.
Wicked tech
Little chin wag.
Wicked tech support.
Yeah, that was
session with the
really
boys.
cool.
That was
the thing I'll
actually
enjoy about that the most is that we're like, hopefully we can build some kind of little rapport going on there. And then like when we have a technical question we can ask and they're gonna actually tell us.
You didn't mind the back window.
Get out of here.
Old Dr. Touch 'em all over there.
That was really interesting. It answered a couple of questions that I had that kind of been plaguing my mind.
The dash is f***ing cool.
I am glad though that I managed to sit in there in a room with a bunch of those guys.
It didn't seem like a card.
And my questions weren't laughed at.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
I wasn't the idiot that
I mean, don't get me
thought
wrong,
I
when he was
was.
going run detail about the whole TCM and what it wants to see and blah, 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 I'm like, yeah, cool. No, when he was going into the RPM over torque times, I'm like,
No, so...
but I understand what he's saying.
I
but
knew
like,
all that
just the
because...
fact that you're on top of his head, I'm like,
Wow! Oh yeah, I was impressed that he knew it. But none of that was new information because I've been following HPA for so fucking long. They talk about that kind of stuff all the time.
I know the torque to horsepower thing, but yeah, it's
Well, they
very
calculate
clever,
stuff.
very clever people. A bunch of very clever guys with very clever ECUs.
Now we're going back to our redneck motorsport and we're going to go fucking try and...
Yee-haw down the straight line.
Actually, we're going to the pub now.
I hope they
once,
come out.
Once these morons are done.
I hope they come out. Because they come out, look at your data and go, nah, this is all wrong.
It'll be that same discussion I used to have with Sean's like, are you fucking serious? Like, how did you even drive it to the start
They're
line?
sitting there looking at the data just like, this is Motec software. This is Microtech software. Sorry, Microtech software.
So we're going to the pub. Me and Calvin have a bit of a vendetta out on one of the poker machines. Took a bit of money from us last time.
Did you say revenge?
Yes. And once we're done there, we're up a few dollars. We're going to head back out to the track and we're going to...
Yeah,
should be just about time to actually go racing.
We'll be up regardless.
I'm going to make up that 700 on
No,
last
don't you
night.
fucking do that again.
Actually, Aaron gave me 500, so that was $1,200 or something.
These boys went to the casino last night, that's why they're a little bit salty.
Threw away all
Yeah,
the
we'll
money.
touch back when we get out to the track and see how we go.
will.
That's my bad.
Stop that, don't touch my back. Get it out of here, go on, kid.